Daughter leaves father alone on deserted farm. When she returns 3 months later, she can't believe it. Emily Wilson felt her heart shatter when the yellow taxi disappeared around the bend of the dirt road, raising a cloud of dust that seemed to symbolize all the pain she carried. At 42, she never imagined she would need to abandon her 68-year-old father alone on the farm where she was born and raised. The decision to accept the accountant job in the capital hadn't been easy, but the hospital bills kept coming, and her father's heart treatment had consumed all the family's savings. Joseph Wilson watched the car vanish into the horizon, adjusting the brown felt hat he'd worn since his days as a young ranch hand, feeling the weight of the years on his stooped shoulders. The worn leather suitcase he held contained only the property deeds and a few mementos of his wife, who had passed 5 years ago, leaving only him and Emily to care for that land that was once prosperous. St. Mary's Farm, nestled among the hills of rural Illinois, had seen better days. What once housed hundreds of head of cattle now maintained only a few chickens, 2 old horses, and the stubbornness of a man who refused to sell the family inheritance. Joseph walked slowly to the wooden house's porch, where the planks creaked under his feet like a melancholy symphony echoing through the empty property. The next day, even before the sun had fully risen, Joseph heard the sound of an engine approaching. Through the kitchen window, he saw a white pickup truck stopping in the yard. He knew that vehicle and the sturdy figure stepping out of it with determined steps well. "Good morning, Mr. Joseph," shouted Victor Thompson, the neighbor who owned the largest property in the area. "I came to pay a courtesy visit, since you're alone around here now." Joseph stepped out onto the porch, wiping his hands on the dish towel. Victor didn't make courtesy visits. At 55, the man had turned his family inheritance into an agribusiness empire, always eyeing neighboring lands to expand his domains. "Good morning, Victor. Coffee's ready if you want some." "Thank you, but I came here to talk business." Victor climbed the porch steps without being invited. "I heard Emily had to leave for work. Must be hard to keep all this running alone." "The farm is fine. Thank you for your concern." "Look, Mr. Joseph, I'll be direct. I know you've had difficulties with the medical treatment. I'm willing to make a generous offer for your land. You could buy a little house in town, be near doctors, have a quieter life." Joseph felt anger rise in his throat, but controlled himself. That conversation wasn't new, but now with Emily gone, Victor had felt encouraged to push harder. "I've said before, and I'll say it again, this land is not for sale." "Think about it," Victor insisted, pulling a paper from his pocket. $50,000. It's a good amount to start a new life." "50,000? Joseph almost laughed. "This property is worth at least $200,000, and you know that." "Ah, but you're forgetting the costs. Land alone is worthless without production, without infrastructure. And frankly, your conditions here aren't the best. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like, and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out." Now continuing. The low offer left Joseph outraged, but he knew Victor was testing his resistance. Without Emily to support him, the neighbor probably thought it would be easier to convince him. The answer is no, Victor, and it will always be no. "All right." The man put the paper away, but his smile wasn't friendly. "But think about what I said. A man of your age, alone here in the middle of nowhere. Accidents can happen." Joseph felt a chill, but remained steadfast. After Victor left, he stayed on the porch watching the heavy clouds forming on the horizon. A storm was approaching, and not just in the sky. During the first days after Emily's departure, Joseph tried to maintain his normal routine. He woke up early, fed the animals, fixed what he could around the property, and made simple meals in the quiet kitchen. But the loneliness weighed on his shoulders like a wet blanket. Victor's visits became daily, always with a new excuse: to check if everything was all right, to bring some sweets from his wife, to offer help with small repairs. But invariably, the conversation returned to the sale of the property. "Mr. Wilson, I found out there's a company interested in building a rural subdivision here in the area," Victor said on a hot afternoon. "I can mediate the negotiation. It would be much more than I offered before." How many times do I have to repeat that I don't want to sell? You need to be realistic. Emily is far away, building her own life. Do you really think she's going to come back to take care of this old farm? Victor's words found Joseph's weak spot. The doubt he tried to push away every night. Would Emily really return? In the city, she would have opportunities, comfort, a better future. Why would she come back to this hard life in the countryside? My daughter will come back, he murmured, but his voice didn't sound convincing even to himself. A week after Emily's departure, the sky finally opened up over St. Mary's farm. The storm arrived in the early hours, with winds that seemed to want to tear the house from its foundations. Joseph woke to the sound of something banging violently on the roof. In the morning, he discovered that several roof tiles had been torn off, leaving a considerable hole over what was once Emily's room. The rainwater had soaked the wooden floor and some furniture. Joseph climbed onto the roof with an old tarp, determined to temporarily cover the hole until he could buy new tiles. But at 68, with his balance no longer so steady, his movements became dangerous on the wet, slanted surface. His foot slipped on a loose tile. Joseph tried to catch himself, but his body weight pulled him down. The fall wasn't far, just 2 meters to the ground, but it was enough to twist his right ankle and bruise the ribs on his left side. Lying on the wet ground, feeling pain radiating through his body, Joseph realized he had underestimated his fragility. He managed to crawl to the porch and lean on a chair, but walking became nearly impossible. For 2 days he dragged himself around the house, eating only what he could reach without much effort, drinking water from the kitchen tap, and sleeping in the living room armchair because he couldn't climb the stairs to the bedroom. The pain in his ribs worsened with every breath, and his ankle swelled so much he had to cut the leather of his boot to get it off. For the first time since Emily left, Joseph seriously considered calling her and asking for help, but his pride spoke louder. She had sacrificed so much to get that job. How could he destroy his daughter's plans because of his own stubbornness? On the 3rd day after the fall, as Joseph dozed in the armchair with his injured leg elevated, he heard voices approaching the house. Through the window pane, he saw 3 young men walking up the dirt road, carrying large backpacks. "Excuse me," shouted a male voice. "Is anyone home?" Joseph limped to the door, leaning on the furniture. On the porch, he found 3 young men who appeared to be between 20 and 25 years old, wearing hiking clothes and with sunburned faces. "Good afternoon, sir," said the tallest one, a young black man with a friendly smile. "My name is Tyrone. These are my friends Ryan and Nathan. We're hiking through the region and got lost. Could you give us some water and maybe point us toward town?" "Of course, come on in." Joseph stepped back from the door, trying to hide his difficulty walking. Tyrone, observant, immediately noticed something was wrong. "Sir, are you hurt?" "Just a little fall, nothing serious." "Let me take a look," said Nathan, a blonde young man with blue eyes. "I study medicine. I'm in my 4th year." Joseph hesitated, but the pain was too intense to refuse help. Nathan carefully examined the ankle and ribs, asking questions about how the accident happened. "Sir, you need medical attention. You might have fractured a rib, and this ankle is badly sprained." "I can't leave here now." Joseph shook his head. "And I don't have money for a private doctor." "At least let us help with first aid," insisted Tyrone. "We have some supplies in our backpack." Ryan, the 3rd young man, was dark-haired and quieter than the others. While Nathan tended to Joseph's injuries, he looked around the house with curious eyes. "Do you live here alone?" "My daughter had to travel for work," Joseph replied, embarrassed to have to explain the situation. "Look, sir." Tyrone sat in a nearby chair. "We were looking for a place to camp tonight. How about if we stay here to help with whatever you need? In return, we just want a little spot to pitch our tent and use the faucet." The offer sounded like a blessing to Joseph, but the natural distrust of someone who'd always lived in the country spoke louder. "I'm not sure that's a good idea. I don't know you." "I understand completely," said Nathan, finishing an improvised bandage on the ankle. "But look, you shouldn't be alone in this condition, and we really need a safe place to spend the night." Ryan approached the window that looked out onto the backyard. "How many chickens do you have out there in the yard?" "About 15, why?" It's just that I saw the fence is a bit damaged. With all this rain, they could get out, or some animal could get in and attack them." The observation made sense to Joseph. He really hadn't been able to check the chicken coop since his fall. "All right," he finally decided. "You can stay tonight, but just tonight." Tyrone smiled and extended his hand. "Thank you, sir. What's your name?" "Joseph Wilson. And you? Where are you from?" "We're from Chicago," explained Tyrone. "We decided to hike through the country during our college break. Ryan studies engineering. I study physical education. And I study medicine, as I said," Nathan added. "My father is a doctor too, that's why I know how to do these basic dressings." While the young men set up 2 small tents in the yard, Joseph watched them from the porch. There was something about those boys that put him at ease. Perhaps it was the respectful way they spoke, or the care Nathan had shown treating his injuries. Ryan approached again. "Mr. Joseph, can I take a look at that chicken coop? I want to see if I can fix the fence before dark." "Go ahead, but don't trouble yourself. I'll find a way to fix it later." "It's no trouble at all. I like tinkering with these things." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. When Ryan returned from the chicken coop, his eyes shone with curiosity. "Mr. Joseph, do you know what kind of chickens those are?" "They're just common yard chickens. Why?" "It's just that some of them are quite different. They have a sort of golden neck, feathers with a special shine. And the eggs? Sir, some of those eggs are almost golden." Joseph shrugged. To him, a chicken was a chicken, an egg was an egg. He didn't understand much about different breeds. My late wife was the one who took care of all that. She always said she had some special chickens, but I never paid much attention. "Can I take pictures of some of them?" asked Ryan, pulling his phone from his pocket. "I want to show my animal genetics professor." "Sure, but I don't see anything special about them." That evening, the 3 young men prepared a simple dinner with the provisions they carried, insisting that Joseph not get up from his armchair. Tyrone turned out to be a good cook, preparing a rice with vegetables that Joseph hadn't eaten in a long time. During dinner, the conversation flowed naturally. Nathan talked about his medical studies and the financial difficulties he faced to stay in college. Tyrone spoke about his dream of becoming a physical education teacher in public schools. Ryan, more reserved, limited himself to listening and asking questions about life on the farm. "Were you born here?" asked Tyrone. "Born and raised. My father bought this land in the 1960s when I was little. It was all thick brush. He cleared every bit, planted pasture, built this house with his own hands." "And your daughter? What is she like?" Joseph's face softened when he spoke of Emily. "She's a hard-working, intelligent young lady. She was always good with numbers. That's why she got this accountant job in the capital. She had to sacrifice a lot to take care of me when I got sick." "You were sick?" Nathan became interested in the conversation. "Heart problem. I needed some expensive tests. Was hospitalized for a few days. Emily spent all her savings to pay for the treatment." "That's why she had to go work far away," concluded Tyrone. "Yeah, and that's why I can't sell this farm for any price. It's the only thing of value I can leave for her." Ryan, who had been quiet for almost the entire conversation, finally spoke. "You said someone wants to buy the farm?" "The neighbor, Victor. He keeps insisting, offering a pittance. He came by here just today." "How much did he offer?" asked Tyrone. $50,000. The 3 young men exchanged meaningful glances. "50,000 for a property this size?" Nathan shook his head. "That's not even 10% of the real value." "I know, but he says without production the land isn't worth anything." "But there is production," observed Ryan. "Those chickens, the eggs, they have potential for much more." "How so?" Ryan hesitated before answering, as if organizing his thoughts. "Mr. Joseph, can I do some research on your chickens? Use my phone's internet to find out exactly what breed they are?" "Sure, but I don't understand what that has to do with it." "It's just... Well, some types of chickens are very rare and valuable. If it's what I'm thinking, your eggs could be worth a lot of money." Joseph laughed. thinking the young man was exaggerating. "Son, they're common chickens." "Common? My wife bought them from a gentleman here in the region about 10 years ago." "Even so, let me check." The next morning, Ryan woke up early and spent almost an hour photographing the chickens and eggs. When he returned to the house, his face was radiant with excitement. "Mr. Joseph, you need to sit down to hear this." "What is it, son?" "Your chickens are of the American Golden breed. It's a rare breed, created by a geneticist in Illinois in the 1990s. Their eggs have a special nutritional composition and are considered gourmet." "Gourmet?" "Fine restaurants and luxury hotels pay a lot for these eggs. And there's more. Each one of these chickens is worth at least $1,000, depending on the lineage." Joseph almost choked on his coffee. $1,000 per chicken? Or more? And the eggs? Each egg can be sold for $15 to $20 in specialized restaurants. That can't be true. "It is true," Nathan confirmed, looking at Ryan's phone screen. "I found a website for specialized breeders here. Look at the prices." Joseph held the device with trembling hands, trying to understand what he was seeing. There were indeed listings for American Golden breed chickens at prices he never could have imagined. But how did my wife get these chickens?" "Do you remember who she bought them from?" "It was from Mr. Frank, an older gentleman who lived up in the Blue Ridge Mountains. She said he was getting rid of his flock because he was moving to the city." Tyrone slapped his forehead. "Mr. Joseph, you might have inherited a treasure without knowing it." The news was too good to be true. Joseph felt confused, torn between hope and the skepticism of a lifetime dealing with disappointments. "Even if it's true, how am I going to sell these eggs? I don't know any fancy restaurants. I don't know how that market works." "The internet solves that," said Ryan. "We can create a page to promote your farm. There's a market for this kind of product." "I don't understand anything about the internet." "But we do," Tyrone perked up. "How about if we stay a few more days to help you get everything organized?" "I can't pay for help." "Who said anything about pay?" Nathan smiled. "We're on vacation anyway, and it would be interesting to learn about rare animal breeding." Joseph looked at the three young men who had appeared on his property as if they were sent by Providence. He still couldn't completely believe the story about the valuable chickens, but there was something about the sincerity of those boys that put him at ease. "You would really do that?" "Of course," Ryan answered, "but there's one condition." "What is it?" "You need to see a doctor to check those ribs. Nathan suspects there might be a fracture, and that's dangerous." "I already said I don't have money for a private doctor." "The public health clinic," insisted Nathan. "Tyrone can drive you into town. He has a driver's license and has driven a pickup truck like yours before." The prospect of leaving the property made Joseph nervous, but the pain in his ribs really wasn't getting any better. "All right. But you promise you'll take care of the animals while I'm gone?" "We promise." That same afternoon, Tyrone drove Joseph's old pickup truck to the nearest town, 20 miles from the farm. At the health clinic, after a 2-hour wait, a doctor confirmed that Joseph had fractured a rib, but it wasn't serious enough for surgery. "Just rest and anti-inflammatories," said the doctor, prescribing the medications, "and no physical exertion for at least 3 weeks." On the way back, Joseph and Tyrone stopped at a hardware store to buy some roofing shingles and a few nails. Tyrone insisted on paying with the money he had saved for his trip. "You can pay me back later," said the young man, "when you sell the first gourmet eggs." "What if this whole story is nonsense?" "It's not nonsense. Ryan knows about animals. He studied it in college. And even if it were, it doesn't hurt to try." When they got back to the farm, they found Ryan and Nathan organizing the chicken coop as if it were a laboratory. They had separated the chickens by age and appearance, catalogued the eggs by laying date, and even improvised more comfortable nests with wooden crates. "How was the doctor?" asked Nathan. "Fractured rib, but it will heal," Tyrone answered for Joseph. "And we bought shingles to fix the roof." "Great, because we discovered more interesting things about the chickens." Ryan approached with a notebook in his hands, where he had written down various information. "Mr. Joseph, you have 16 American Golden breed chickens and 2 common hens. The Goldens are laying an average of 12 eggs a day. 12 eggs a day times $20 an egg." Nathan did the math quickly. $240 a day. Over $7,000 a month just from the eggs. $7,000? Joseph sat down heavily in a chair. Per month? Of course we'd need to find the right buyers, organize delivery, get all the necessary permits, explained Ryan. But the potential is there. And there's more, Tyrone added. If you can expand the breeding operation, you could earn much more. Joseph Wilson's head was spinning with all this information. His whole life he'd struggled to get enough from the land just to survive. And now 3 college kids were telling him he had a treasure in his backyard. You really believe this could work? We do, the 3 replied in unison. That night, after dinner, Joseph called Ryan aside for a private talk. Son, can I ask you a personal question? Of course, sir. Why are you helping a strange old man? You were on vacation. You could be having fun somewhere else. Ryan stayed quiet for a long moment, looking at the stars through the kitchen window. You know, Mr. Wilson, before this trip started, I had a huge fight with my dad. Why? He wanted me to drop out of college to work at his auto shop, said I was wasting my time with studying, that engineering wouldn't make me any money. We argued, I left home angry and decided to do this hike to cool off. I understand. When I found you here, hurt and alone, I thought of my dad. He's stubborn too, also has a hard time asking for help. And I thought, if he were in a situation like this, I'd want someone to take care of him. The sincerity in the young man's voice touched Joseph's heart. Your father must be worried. He probably is. I haven't called home in 3 days. Then call. Use the landline here. Local calls aren't expensive. You don't mind, sir? Son, after everything you're doing for me, feel free to call. The next morning, Ryan spent nearly an hour on the phone with his father. Joseph, who was resting on the porch, could hear part of the conversation through the open kitchen window. Dad, I know you were worried. No, nothing happened to me. I'm helping an older gentleman here on a farm. Yeah, they have internet here too. Dad, about that argument we had. When Ryan hung up, his eyes were red. He went out to the porch and sat in a chair next to Joseph. Did you get to talk to him? I did. He was really worried, almost called the police to look for me. And your fight? I think we'll be able to work it out. I explained to him how engineering can be applied in practical ways, using your chicken breeding as an example. He got interested. That's good, son. Family is what matters. It's true. You must miss your daughter. I miss her a lot, but I don't want to bother her by calling all the time. Why not call? I'm sure she's worried about you. I don't want her to know I got hurt. She'd drop everything and come running back. And that would be bad? It would, because she needs that job. The hospital bills aren't all paid yet. But if this chicken story works out, that won't be a problem anymore. Joseph shook his head, still skeptical. I don't want to get my hopes up, Ryan. My whole life I've learned not to count your chickens before. He stopped and laughed at his own expression. Well, in this case, maybe we should count on the eggs. The following days passed quickly. The 3 young men established an efficient routine. Nathan took care of Joseph's bandages and monitored his recovery. Tyrone fixed the roof and other small repairs around the house, while Ryan methodically organized the chicken breeding operation. They created index cards for each bird, recording estimated age, physical characteristics, egg production, and behavior. They discovered that one of the hens, which Joseph affectionately called Golden because she was the prettiest, was clearly the flock's leader and also the most productive. This one is special, said Ryan, photographing the golden chicken. Must be from a superior lineage. Her eggs are larger with a sturdier shell. How do you know so much about chickens? Asked Joseph. Internet, replied Tyrone. Ryan found several breeder groups on social media. He's learning from them. And some have already shown interest in buying eggs from you, added Ryan. There's a restaurant in Chicago that wants to place a test order. Test? 20 dozen eggs for them to evaluate the quality. If they approve, they might place regular orders. 20 dozen, that's 240 eggs. At how much each? $15 per egg for the restaurant. That's $3,600. Joseph almost fell off his chair. $3,600 for 20 dozen eggs. That's the gourmet market price, confirmed Nathan. But for that, you need health certification, proper packaging, refrigerated transport. That will cost a fortune. Not necessarily. Ryan showed some notes. I talked with the folks in the breeder groups. They give tips on how to start small and grow gradually. The prospect of actually making money with the chickens began to seem real to Joseph. For the first time in months, he felt a pang of hope. And you would do all this? Help organize all this paperwork? We would, Tyrone assured. But you would need to teach us about rural life, about how to handle the animals. It would be a fair exchange. You want to learn about country life? We do, Nathan explained. I'm thinking of specializing in veterinary medicine in the future. Tyrone wants to teach classes about environmental education. And Ryan is discovering he likes animals more than engineering. It's true, Ryan confirmed. Talking with my dad yesterday, I realized I can use engineering to improve animal farming systems. It's a growing field. Joseph looked at the three young men with growing affection. In just a few days, they had brought more life and energy to the farm than he had felt in years. All right, but on one condition. What? When this works out, and I start making money, you will be partners in the business. I won't accept doing this without sharing the profits with those who are helping me. Mr. Joseph, Tyrone protested, we don't need payment. We're helping because we want to. And I'm offering a partnership because I want to. You're giving me a chance to rebuild my life. It's fair that you share in the results. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out now continuing. The conversation was interrupted by the sound of an approaching engine. Through the window, they saw Victor's white pickup truck stopping in the yard. It's the neighbor, murmured Joseph. He'll be curious about you being here. Do you want us to leave? Asked Ryan. No, you stay. It's good for him to see I'm not alone. Victor got out of his truck with his usual arrogance, but stopped upon seeing the tents in the yard and the three young men organizing the chicken coop. Good afternoon, Mr. Joseph. I see you have visitors. Good afternoon, Victor. These are Tyrone, Ryan, and Nathan. They're helping me with some improvements on the property. Improvements? Victor's tone was disbelieving. What kind of improvements? Organizing the chicken farming, replied Ryan, approaching confidently. Mr. Joseph has very valuable purebred animals here. Valuable chickens? Victor laughed scornfully. Son, these are just common barnyard chickens. Actually, no. Ryan maintained a respectful but firm tone. They are American Golden breed, a rare breed very sought after in the gourmet market. Victor's expression changed slightly. He didn't know if the young man was being serious or making up a story. And what are you, bird specialists? I study engineering with a focus on agricultural systems, Ryan lied partially. We're helping Mr. Joseph modernize the breeding operation to increase productivity. Productivity? Victor repeated the word as if it were funny. Do you know how much it costs to keep a rural property running? Yes, we do. Tyrone joined the conversation. That's why we're developing a sustainable business plan for specialized breeding. Business plan? Victor looked at Joseph with a mixture of disdain and concern. Mr. Joseph, I hope you're not getting fooled by wild promises. They're not promises, said Nathan, showing his phone. They're facts based on market research. The eggs from the American Golden breed have guaranteed demand in specialized restaurants. Victor took the device and read some information on the screen. His face lost color as he understood what he was seeing. This could be fake information from the internet. You can check the official breeders' websites, offered Ryan. There's even a group on WhatsApp where they discuss prices and do business. Well, Victor handed the phone back, clearly disturbed. Even if it were true, setting up a business like that requires a lot of investment, licenses, technical knowledge. We're taking care of all that, assured Tyrone. We've already contacted the proper authorities and are organizing the necessary documentation. Joseph watched the conversation with growing satisfaction. For the first time, he saw Victor at a loss for words, clearly bothered by the possibility that the farm could actually be profitable. Well, Mr. Joseph, Victor tried to regain his composure. If you need anything, just say so. We've been neighbors for a long time. Thank you, Victor, but I think I have plenty of help. After the neighbor left, the four men looked at each other and started to laugh. Did you see his face when he found out the value of the eggs, said Tyrone. I bet he'll research everything about the American Golden Chicken tonight, added Nathan. And he'll find out you were telling the truth, concluded Joseph. Mr. Joseph, Ryan became serious, I think you need to be careful. If we actually manage to set up this business and it works, your neighbor's interest in the property could increase a lot. How so? A profitable rare poultry operation increases the land value tremendously. Instead of $50,000, your farm could be worth $500,000 or more. $500,000 or more. It depends on how the business evolves. The scale of what could be happening began to dawn on Joseph. It wasn't just the possibility of making enough money to pay the medical debts. It was the chance to truly transform that property into a sustainable source of income for him and Emily. Do you think this could bother Victor? Men like him don't like to see their neighbors prosper, observed Tyrone, especially when it goes against his plans. What plans? Mr. Joseph, from what you've told us, he's wanted to buy your property for a long time. If its value goes up, or if you no longer need to sell, his plans go down the drain. But he can't do anything, can he? Legally, no, reassured Nathan. But it's good to keep an eye open. That night, Joseph had trouble sleeping. It wasn't just the pain in his ribs that bothered him, but the mix of expectation and worry about everything that was happening. For the first time in months, he saw a possible future where he wouldn't need to sell the farm, where he could pay off the debts and still secure a decent income. But he was also aware that significant changes always brought new challenges. The next morning, Ryan woke up early with an idea. Mr. Joseph, what if we created a web page to promote the farm? That way other buyers can learn about our work. A web page? A social media page. I can take pictures of the chickens, the eggs, the property, tell the story of the farm, show how everything is natural and carefully done. I don't understand much about these things. Leave it to me. I'll make it simple and elegant, and I'll teach you how to use it, so you can keep updating it after we leave. The mention of the young men's departure brought a pang of sadness to Joseph. In just 1 week, he had grown used to their company, their conversations, the feeling that the farm was alive again. When are you all leaving? Well, Tyrone exchanged looks with the other two. Our vacation ends in 2 weeks, but come to think of it, maybe we can extend our stay a bit. How so? I can drop a few classes this semester, explained Ryan, and focus on animal projects. I can also rearrange my college schedule, said Nathan. Some courses I can take online. And I was thinking about changing my major anyway, revealed Tyrone. Maybe agricultural engineering is more interesting than physical education. Joseph was moved by the prospect of the young men staying longer. You would really do that? If you want our help, we'd be happy to stay, assured Ryan. Of course I do, but you need to talk to your families, think carefully about what you're deciding. I already talked to my dad, said Ryan. I explained the whole project to him. You know what he said? What? That if I've really found something that interests me, I should go for it. And he offered to come here to see the farm. Your father would come here? If you don't mind, he understands business. He could give some tips on how to organize everything properly. The idea of meeting the young men's parents pleased Joseph very much. It meant they were really taking the project seriously. It would be a pleasure to have him here. In the following days, the work on the farm intensified. Tyrone finished fixing the roof and began renovating the henhouse, creating separate compartments for each group of chickens. Nathan organized a healthcare schedule based on guidelines he found in veterinary manuals. Ryan created the webpage and started posting pictures and information about the farm. The response was surprising. In 3 days, the page already had over 200 followers and several messages from people interested in buying eggs. Look at this, Mr. Joseph, Ryan showed his phone. There's a restaurant chef in New York asking if we deliver there. New York? That's very far. But the price he's willing to pay covers the shipping. $25 per egg, minimum order of 10 dozen per week. 10 dozen per week, that's 120 eggs. $3,000 a week from just one customer, calculated Nathan. $12,000 a month. The numbers were so high, Joseph had trouble believing them. Are you sure this isn't a dream? It's reality, guaranteed Tyrone. And look here, there's a lady in Washington, D.C. who wants to buy breeding hens. She's offering $2,000 a pair. $2,000 for a pair of chickens? For breeding, she wants to start her own farm. But if I sell the hens, how will I maintain egg production? You don't need to sell them all, explained Ryan. You can sell a few pairs and use the money to improve the setup and buy more breeding stock. That's how you expand a business. The logic made sense, but Joseph still had trouble thinking in such business-like terms. Do you think I could manage all this? You can, encouraged Nathan, and we're going to teach you everything. Besides, my father said he can recommend a trusted accountant to handle the legal side. Does your father understand this too? He has a small medical equipment company. He knows the bureaucratic procedures to legalize businesses. At the end of that week, 3 new developments completely changed the scenario at St. Mary's Farm. First, Ryan's father arrived. Mr. Frank was a 50-year-old man, a retired mechanic who had set up a thriving workshop on the outskirts of Chicago. As soon as he got out of the car at the farm, he was impressed with the organization of the work the young people had implemented. Ryan told me everything over the phone, but seeing it in person is different, he said to Joseph. You all really set up something professional here. It was all the boys' idea. But the raw material is yours. These chickens are truly a treasure. Mr. Frank spent the whole day analyzing the operation, asking questions, suggesting improvements in the organization. In the late afternoon, he called Joseph for a conversation. Mr. Joseph, can I say something? Of course. My son is different since he got here. More mature, more focused. For the first time, I saw him really interested in something. He's a good kid. All of them are. That's true. And I want to make a proposal. How about if I invest in this business of yours? How so? Money to improve the structure, buy equipment, regularize all the documentation. In return, I would get a small percentage of the profits. You would invest money in a chicken business? I would invest in a business that has my son as a partner, and that is being run by serious and competent people. The offer took Joseph by surprise. It was the solution to all the financial problems that still worried him. How much would you be willing to invest? $30,000 to start. If the business does well, I can put in more. And how much percentage do you want? 20%. You keep 40. The boys split the other 40 between them. It was an offer too generous to be true. Why would you do this? Because I believe in the business's potential, and because I want my son to have a chance to build something of his own. The second development came through the website. A documentary filmmaker from Chicago saw the photos of the breeding operation and got in touch wanting to make a mini documentary about St. Mary's Farm. He said stories like this are inspiring, explained Ryan. An elderly man who discovers a treasure in his own backyard with the help of young college students. He wants to film here? He does, and he won't charge anything. He said the documentary can be used to promote the business. I don't know if I want to be on television. It's not television, Tyrone reassured. It's for the internet, but it could really help promote the breeding operation. The third development was the most worrying. Victor came back to the farm, but this time he wasn't alone. He brought with him a man in a suit who introduced himself as a lawyer. Mr. Joseph, this is Mr. Rodney, my lawyer. He needs to check some questions about the property boundaries. What questions? Well, doing some research at the county clerk's office, we discovered there might be an overlap between your boundary and my property. Overlap. This farm has been mine for over 40 years. Of course, said the lawyer in a falsely reassuring tone. It's certainly just a documentation issue, but I need to measure some points to be sure. Ryan, who was organizing the chicken nests, heard the conversation and approached. Sorry to intrude, but do you have a court order to make measurements on the property? A court order? The lawyer seemed surprised. It's not necessary for a preliminary verification. Actually, it is, said Ryan firmly. Any measurement or questioning of a boundary needs to be done through the proper legal channels. And who are you? Victor asked irritably. I'm an engineer and Mr. Joseph's partner in this property. The statement took Victor by surprise. He clearly didn't expect the young men to have formalized any kind of partnership. Partner. That's right. And as a partner, I demand that any legal inquiries be made through proper procedures. The lawyer exchanged glances with Victor, obviously bothered by encountering organized resistance. Well, We'll arrange the proper documentation and return another time." After they left, Ryan explained to Joseph what had happened. "Mr. Joseph, that was an attempt at intimidation. They wanted to scare you with non-existent legal issues." "How do you know they're non-existent?" "Because properties held for over 40 years have consolidated rights, and any boundary disputes must be filed formally through legal proceedings." "Do you understand laws?" "I understand a bit. My father went through similar situations with his workshop." Tyrone joined the conversation. "Mr. Joseph, I think it's time to formalize our partnership indeed. If people are trying to cause trouble, we'd all better be legally protected." "You would do that?" "We would," Nathan confirmed. "After all, this business is already ours too." That night, Joseph called Emily for the first time since she had left. His daughter answered on the second ring, clearly worried. "Dad, I've been waiting for your call for days. Is everything all right?" "Everything's fine, honey. Better than fine, actually." "What do you mean?" "It's hard to explain over the phone, but some things have happened here that could change our lives." "What kind of things?" "Dad, you're worrying me." "No need to worry. They're good things. Very good things." Joseph told her a summarized version of recent events: the young men's arrival, the discovery about the chickens, the business possibilities. "Dad, this sounds too good to be true. Are you sure these young men are trustworthy?" "I'm absolutely sure. They saved me, Emily. And I'm not just talking about money." "What do you mean?" "I was feeling so lonely here, lost, thinking I had no purpose left in life. They gave me back hope." Emily's voice became choked up. "Dad, you never told me you were feeling that way." "I didn't want to worry you. But now everything's different. There's life on the farm again. And you really think this chicken business can work?" "Honey, in 1 week they got more orders for eggs than I could sell in a year. And there are people wanting to invest money in the project." "Invest money?" "One of the boys' fathers offered $30,000 to improve the infrastructure." $30,000? Dad, you need to be very careful. It could be a scam." "It's not a scam, Emily. The man is serious, has his own company, and they've already done so much for the farm that I trust them completely. Even so, I think I'd better come back to assess the situation." "No." Joseph was emphatic. "I don't want you to lose that job because of me." "But Dad..." "Emily, for the first time in months, I'm seeing a future where we can keep the farm and still have a good income. Don't ruin this by rushing back too soon." "Are you sure?" "I am. But I want you to come during your next vacation to meet the boys and see what they've done here. Vacation isn't for another 2 months. Then it will be the perfect time. The business will be organized. You'll be able to evaluate everything calmly." After talking with Emily, Joseph felt more at ease. He had shared his discoveries with her, but without creating pressure for her to abandon her job. The next day, Frank returned to the farm, bringing an accountant and a lawyer he trusted. Within a few hours, they had organized all the necessary documentation to formalize the partnership and legalize the specialized breeding business. "All set," said the accountant, Dr. Silverman. "You now have a legally established rural micro-enterprise. You can issue invoices, make contracts with suppliers and buyers, all within the law." "And what about the issue the neighbor raised?" asked Joseph. "Pure intimidation," assured the lawyer, Dr. Henry. "I analyzed all the property documentation. There are no irregularities or possible questions about the boundaries. Could they still try to cause trouble?" "They can try, but they won't succeed. And now that you have a registered company, any attempt to cause disturbance can be reported as unfair competition." With the legal issue resolved, work on the farm accelerated. Mr. Frank transferred the promised $30,000 and improvements to the structure began immediately. Tyrone designed a new, larger and more modern chicken coop with a ventilation system, automatic waterers and individual nesting boxes. Nathan organized a strict sanitary protocol with vaccination control and health monitoring for the birds. Ryan improved the website and began handling the orders that came in daily. Within 2 weeks, production had tripled. They bought 20 new breeding hens of the American Golden breed from a reputable breeder in New York, and the farm began producing an average of 40 eggs per day. The first big order came from the restaurant in New York, 200 dozen eggs per month at $25 per egg. This contract alone guaranteed a monthly revenue of $60,000. $60,000 a month, repeated Joseph, still in disbelief. That's more than I used to earn in an entire year with the old operation. And this is just the beginning, said Ryan. There are more interested restaurants, and we're also developing the market for breeding birds. How many chickens do we have now? 42 adult American Goldens, 15 young hens that will start laying in 2 months, and 10 more breeding pairs arrived last week. In 6 months, we'll have the capacity to produce over 100 eggs a day, calculated Nathan. The numbers were impressive, but what made Joseph happiest was the atmosphere on the farm. The property was once again pulsing with life and activity. The young men had settled in permanently, turning the old guest room into a makeshift office where they managed orders and the business's bookkeeping. Mr. Frank visited the farm twice a week, always bringing suggestions for improvements or new business contacts. The relationship between him and Ryan had grown much stronger, and the young man now spoke openly about having found his true calling. "You know, Mr. Joseph," said Ryan one afternoon as they watched the chickens in the pasture, "I never thought I would enjoy working with animals so much. What about engineering? I'm going to finish the degree, but I want to specialize in agricultural systems. There's a lot of room for innovation in this area. Do your parents support this decision?" "My father is fully supportive. My mother is still getting used to the idea, but when she saw the first financial results, she felt more at ease." "Financial results? My share of the profits is already enough to pay for college, with a little left over. I've never earned my own money before." The satisfaction in the young man's voice touched Joseph's heart. It wasn't just a business they had created, but a new family of choice, united by common goals and mutual affection. Tyrone had also found his path. He decided to put his physical education course on hold and enroll in veterinary medicine. "I've always liked sports," he explained, "but I discovered I like taking care of animals even more, and there's a lot of work for veterinarians specialized in poultry. Do you plan to always work here on the farm, if you'll have me? The idea is to expand to other species of rare poultry. There's a market for gourmet quail, special ducks, even ostriches." "Ostriches?" "Ostrich meat is becoming fashionable in fine restaurants, and the eggs are used to make giant omelets for groups." The prospect of further diversifying the business excited Joseph, but he had learned to take it slow, growing in a planned way. Nathan was the most focused on his studies, but he had also found the farm to be a practical lab for his medical classes. "I'm learning more here than at the university," he confessed. "Theory is important, but practice is fundamental." "And your professors? What do they think about you missing classes?" "Some don't like it, but when I explain the project and show them the practical results, most understand. One professor even offered to come here to do research on health management in artisanal breeding." 3 weeks after the young men arrived at the farm, Joseph received a call that would completely change his perspective on the future. It was from a company in New York specializing in gourmet foods. "Mr. Wilson, I'm Olivia Marshall, a buyer for American Gourmet. We heard about the exceptional quality of your farm's eggs through the King's Table restaurant." "Oh, yes. They are our customers. We would like to make a proposal for an exclusive partnership. We would be willing to buy your entire egg production for the next 2 years with a guaranteed contract." "The entire production?" "Yes. And we would pay $30 per egg with a minimum order of 1,000 eggs per month. 1,000 eggs per month at $30 each. $30,000 guaranteed monthly, Mr. Wilson. And as your production increases, we can renegotiate for even higher amounts." The proposal was too tempting to give an immediate answer. "I need to talk to my partners and give you an answer in a few days." "Of course, but don't take too long. We have other interested suppliers, but we prefer to work with you because of the superior quality of your eggs." When Joseph told the young men about the proposal, the reaction was excitement mixed with caution. $30,000 guaranteed monthly is very good," said Tyrone, "but an exclusivity contract could limit our growth." "How so?" asked Joseph. If we grow and can produce more, we can't sell to other customers, explained Ryan. We become dependent on just one buyer. But it's guaranteed money. It's true, agreed Nathan. You need to evaluate whether it's better to have a guarantee or the freedom to grow. And you? What do you think? The three looked at each other before Ryan answered. Mr. Wilson, the decision is yours. But our opinion is that it's still too early to lock in an exclusivity deal. We're growing very fast, discovering new markets. It would be a shame to limit ourselves now. But what if we can't find other buyers as good? We will, assured Tyrone. The demand for quality artisanal products only increases, and our eggs are truly special. The confidence of the young men was contagious to Joseph, but he still had the natural caution of someone who had spent a lifetime struggling to survive. I'm going to ask for a few days to think about it. That same week, something happened that helped Joseph make his decision. The documentary filmmaker from Chicago arrived to do the filming, accompanied by a small but professional team. Mr. Wilson, what an incredible story, said the director, Charlie Miller. A man who at 68 years old discovers a treasure in his own backyard and rebuilds his life with the help of young college students. It wasn't quite like that. Of course it was, interrupted Ryan. You just don't realize how inspiring your story is. The filming lasted 2 days. Charlie recorded the entire breeding process, from the care of the chickens to the packaging of the eggs. He interviewed Joseph and the three young men, capturing heartfelt testimonies about how that encounter had changed everyone's lives. What impresses me the most, said Charlie during a break, is how you've built a family here. It's not just a business, it's a community. That's true, agreed Joseph. These boys are like the grandchildren I never had. And you're like the grandpa we chose, added Tyrone. On the last day of filming, Charlie made a revelation that surprised everyone. You know, Mr. Joseph, your story goes beyond what I imagined. I managed to get in touch with Mr. Frank, who sold the chickens to your wife 10 years ago. You did? He's alive, living in a retirement home in Aspen, and when I told him about your flock, he almost cried. Why? Because he had raised those chickens for 20 years trying to perfect the breed. But when he had to move to the city, he thought all his work had been lost. And it wasn't. Not only wasn't it lost, it was improved. Your wife and now all of you have maintained and enhanced the lineage he spent his life developing. The news moved Joseph deeply. I'd like to meet him. He wants to meet you too. He said he'd like to see what you've done with his life's work. Can we visit him? You can. And he has something to give you. What? Detailed notes on raising them, information about the bird's genealogy, techniques he developed over the years. It's like a handmade breeding manual. The prospect of meeting the original breeder of the chickens and gaining access to his knowledge excited the young men greatly. That would be fantastic, said Ryan. We can learn a lot from his experience. And he can see that his work wasn't in vain, added Nathan. At the end of that week, Joseph made his decision about the proposal from the New York company. I'm going to turn down the exclusivity deal, he announced during dinner. You're right, it's too soon to limit ourselves. Are you sure? Asked Tyrone. It's a lot of guaranteed money. I'm sure. You've given me back the courage to dream big. I won't waste that out of fear. The decision was celebrated as a collective victory. They were choosing growth over security, freedom over limitation. The following week, they visited Mr. Frank at the retirement home in Aspen. The meeting was emotional for everyone involved. At 89 years old, Mr. Frank still had a sharp mind and eyes that lit up when he talked about his chickens. I knew Mrs. Helen was special, he said, referring to Joseph's wife. When she showed interest in the chickens, I knew they would be in good hands. She always said they were special chickens, Joseph recalled. But I never understood just how much. I spent 20 years crossbreeding lineages, selecting the best traits. I wanted to create an American chicken that would be unique in the world. And you succeeded, Ryan assured him. The American Golden breed is internationally recognized. Really? The old man's eyes shone. My work actually paid off. It did. And would you like to see how they look today? Ryan showed him photos of the chickens on his phone, explaining how they had organized the flock and expanded it. My God. Mr. Frank held the device with trembling hands. They're beautiful. Perfect. Would you like to come see the farm? Joseph invited. Yes, I would. Very much. Then we'll arrange a visit. You can stay with us for a few days. It would be a dream come true. Mr. Frank not only visited the farm, but decided to spend his final years there. The retirement home management agreed to the transfer, and Joseph prepared a comfortable room for the elderly man. It's like our family is finally complete, Tyrone remarked. We have the original breeder, the heir to the chickens and the ones carrying on the work. And we're still missing Emily, Joseph reminded. She needs to see all this. The arrival of your Frank brought invaluable technical knowledge to the breeding operation. He knew details about every lineage, could identify important genetic characteristics, and had management techniques developed over decades. You're on the right track, he said after a week of analyzing the operation, but I can suggest a few improvements. What kind? Stricter breeding control, careful selection of breeding stock, and a special feeding technique I developed to intensify the golden color of the eggs. Special feeding? A mixture of grains with small amounts of turmeric and other natural spices. It doesn't alter the flavor, but it makes the eggs an even more beautiful color. Your Frank's suggestions were implemented immediately, and the results appeared within weeks. The eggs took on an even more intense golden hue, and several buyers commented on the improved quality. We're producing the best gourmet eggs in the United States, said Ryan with pride, and maybe in the world. It's still too early to say that, pondered Joseph, but we really are on the right track. The business continued to grow rapidly. New contracts were signed with restaurants in Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., and Miami. The website gained thousands of followers, and articles about St. Mary's Farm began appearing in specialty magazines. Look at this, Tyrone showed a food magazine with a 2-page feature on the breeding operation. The Illinois farm that produces the most coveted eggs in the country. That's very valuable free advertising, observed your Frank. You're building a strong brand. Brand? St. Mary's Farm. St. Mary's Golden Eggs. The name is already becoming known in the gourmet market. The observation made Joseph realize they had created something much bigger than a simple chicken farm. It was truly a brand, a company gaining national recognition. 2 months after his arrival at the farm, the moment Joseph had been waiting for finally came. Emily managed to take a week's vacation and came home. His daughter got out of the taxi on the dirt road and stood still for a few minutes, trying to process what she was seeing. The property was unrecognizable. Where there was once just a dusty yard, there was now an organized parking lot with several marked spaces. The house was freshly painted, with a tended garden and an elegant sign at the entrance, St. Mary's Farm, specialized rare poultry breeding. The old chicken coop had been replaced by a modern facility with spacious aviaries and automated systems. A second shed had been built for processing and packaging the eggs. But what impressed her most was the activity. There were people working, cars coming and going, a bustle she had never seen on the property. "Dad?" she called out, still in shock. Joseph came out of the house smiling, accompanied by 3 young men Emily recognized from the photos he had sent via WhatsApp. "Emily, my dear daughter." The hug between father and daughter was long and emotional. Emily couldn't stop looking around, trying to reconcile the farm she had left with the one she found. "Dad, what happened here?" "What happened is that we discovered a treasure, daughter, and these are the ones responsible for it all." Tyrone, Ryan, and Nathan approached respectfully. "Mrs. Emily, your father talks about you a lot," said Tyrone. "It's an honor to finally meet you." "The honor is mine. From what I see, you've worked miracles here." "We didn't work miracles," corrected Ryan. "We just discovered the potential that was already here." During the first 2 days, Emily made a point of understanding every detail of the operation. She analyzed the contracts, reviewed the accounting, met with the suppliers and buyers, and toured the facilities. Her background in accounting helped her quickly understand the financial aspects of the business. "Dad, you're making over $80,000 a month?" "This month it will pass 100,000, Joseph replied proudly. $100,000 a month raising chickens? They're not ordinary chickens, Nathan explained. They're birds from a very rare and highly valued breed. And the best part is that we're still growing, Tyrone added. There's potential to reach 200,000 per month by the end of the year. The numbers were impressive, but Emily had inherited from her father the natural skepticism of someone who had always struggled with financial difficulties. And if demand falls? What if competition appears? What if some illness happens to the chickens? Those are real risks, Ryan admitted. That's why we're diversifying. We started with other bird breeds. We've created financial reserves. We have insurance for the animals. You've thought of everything. We've tried to, said Tyrone. Your father taught us the importance of being careful. On the third day, Emily had a long, private conversation with her father. Dad, I need to admit I was wrong. When you told me over the phone, I thought it was too good to be true. And isn't it too good? It's good because it's true. You all have really created something special here. Not us, daughter. They created it. I just provided the raw materials. That's not true. They told me how important you were in guiding the work, how your experience made a difference. Even so, without them, I would have lost everything. Victor was almost able to convince me to sell for a pittance. Speaking of which, what happened with his attempts to buy the farm? They stopped completely after it became clear the property was prospering. Now he even waves when he passes by on the road. And you all, how are you getting along? Dad living with 3 young men can't be easy. Daughter, they brought life to this house. There's conversation, laughter, plans for the future. I don't feel lonely for a single minute. And them? Don't they find it annoying having to look after an old man? On the contrary. Yesterday, Ryan told me he learns more from me about life than he learned in college about theories. They really like you. And I like them very much. They're like the sons I never had. The statement touched Emily deeply. Dad, I felt jealous when you said that. Jealous? I thought they were taking my place in your life. Daughter, no one can take your place. You are my only daughter, my blood, my continuity. They are a family we chose. You are the family God gave me. Is there a difference? There is. One complements the other but never replaces it. On the 4th day, Emily had individual conversations with each of the young men. Tyrone talked about his plans to graduate as a veterinarian and specialize in rare birds. Do you intend to always work here on the farm? If your father will have me, yes. But not as an employee, as a partner, as family. And if one day you have a falling out? I don't believe that will happen, but if it does, we have clear contracts about how to divide everything. Ryan told her about how he had found his calling in animal husbandry. I never thought I would enjoy working with my hands so much, taking care of living beings. And do your parents support it? They support it completely. My father is even thinking about moving near the farm when he retires. He would like to live in the country. He said that after getting to know life here, he found the city too noisy and stressful. Nathan talked about his medical studies and how he intended to continue balancing college with work on the farm. Isn't it difficult being away from your family? At first it was, but now I feel like I have 2 families, the one I was born into and the one I chose. And if you need to choose between them? I can't believe I'm going to need to. My parents understand that I found something important here. On the 5th day, Emily met her Frank and was enchanted by the story of the original breeder of the chickens. You spent your life developing these birds. I did indeed. It was my dream to create an American breed that would be recognized worldwide. And you succeeded, with the help of your family. Your mother was the one who had faith in my work when no one else believed. My mother always had a good eye for business. She certainly did. And you inherited that trait from her. How do you know? By the way you're analyzing everything, asking the right questions, thinking about the risks and opportunities. You have the same discerning eye as Mrs. Helen. On the 6th day, Emily made a decision that surprised everyone. Dad, I want to quit my job in the capital and come back to help with the farm. Honey, are you sure? There you have stability, a guaranteed salary, and here I have family, purpose, and the chance to build something truly great. But you understand accounting, not animal husbandry. I can learn about animals, and you all need someone who understands financial management. That's true, agreed Tyrone. We're growing so fast that the administrative side is getting complicated. Besides, added Ryan, It would be good to have someone from Mr. Joseph's family to carry on the business in the future. What do you mean? Your father is already 68. As healthy as he is, one day he'll need someone to take over the leadership of the company. The observation made Emily realize it wasn't just about coming home, but about taking on a fundamental role in the continuation of a family legacy. Would you accept me as a partner? Of course we would, Nathan replied immediately. You would be the main partner, alongside your father. But with one condition, said Joseph. What? That you finish your probation period at your job in the capital properly. I don't want you to get a reputation for being irresponsible. That means 2 more months. 2 months will fly by, and it will be enough time for us to organize your return properly. On the last day of the visit, Emily attended a meeting where everyone planned how her integration into the business would work. First, I'll need to learn everything about raising poultry, she said. Mr. Frank can teach you, suggested Ryan. He's the leading authority on the subject. And I can show you the practical day-to-day side, offered Tyrone. I already understand the administrative side, continued Emily. But I'm going to suggest some improvements to the financial organization. What kind of improvements? Asked Joseph. A clearer separation between costs and revenue, profitability analysis by product, financial projections for growth planning. That would be very helpful, admitted Nathan. Sometimes we get lost in the numbers. And there's something else I'd like to propose. What? Creating an emergency fund for the company. From what I've seen, you invest almost all the profit back into growth. That's true, agreed Ryan. Maybe it's too risky. Growing isn't risky, but not having reserves for emergencies is. The suggestion made sense to everyone. It was Emily's business experience complementing the young men's entrepreneurial enthusiasm. Then it's decided, said Joseph. In 2 months our family will be complete. On the morning of her departure, Emily said goodbye to everyone with a mixture of sadness at leaving the farm again and excitement for the future plans. Dad, thank you for waiting for me to come to my own conclusions, she said, hugging Joseph. I knew you would understand, you just needed to see it with your own eyes. And you, she addressed the 3 young men. Thank you for saving my father and our farm. We're the ones who should thank you, replied Tyrone. Your father saved us too. How so? He gave us purpose, family, a future. We arrived here lost and found our way. During the next 2 months, while Emily finished her time in the capital, St. Mary's Farm continued to thrive and develop. Production reached an average of 80 eggs per day, with guaranteed orders from restaurants across the country. Monthly revenue surpassed $100,000, and projections indicated continued growth. More important than the numbers, however, was the quality of life everyone had found there. Joseph had regained his vitality and sense of purpose. The 3 young men had discovered their callings and built a new family. Frank had found a place to spend his final years, seeing his life's work continue to bear fruit. On the day Emily returned to the farm for good, the property was even busier. A television crew was finishing filming a documentary about innovative rural farms, and there were buyers touring the facilities. Dad, this has become a real business, she said, watching the activity, and you're the one who will help manage all of this. I'm excited, and a little nervous too. That's normal, but you have good training and you'll have all our help. That evening, during Emily's official welcome dinner, Joseph gave a speech that moved everyone. 3 months ago, I was a defeated man, sick, in debt, alone, thinking about selling the farm for a pittance. Today I'm healthy, prosperous, surrounded by family and with prospects for a bright future. You deserved this turnaround, said Nathan. I don't know if I deserved it, but I know it was possible because you all came into my life. Tyrone, Ryan, Nathan, you didn't just save my farm, you saved my soul. And you saved ours too, replied Ryan. You taught us that family isn't just blood, it's a choice, it's care, it's building together. Frank taught us that a life's work can continue through other people, added Tyrone. And Emily will make sure all of this continues for many generations, Nathan finished. Emily, who had spent the last few months anxious about her decision to leave the stability of her job in the capital, finally felt at peace. Dad, I think Mom would be proud to see what we've done with her chickens. She would be very proud, daughter. She always said those birds were special. They were. But what made them truly special was the care they received. First from Mom, then from you, and now from all of us. 6 months after the lost young backpackers arrived at St. Mary's Farm, the property had been completely transformed. What was a farm in decay had become a modern and prosperous agricultural business. The breeding of American golden chickens was established as one of the best in the country. The farm's eggs were served in the finest restaurants, and there was a waiting list of buyers wanting to secure contracts. More important than the financial success, however, was the family they had built together. Joseph had found not only a source of income, but children of the heart who brought joy and purpose to his later years. Tyrone had discovered his calling and was graduating in veterinary medicine with a specialization in poultry. Ryan had completely changed careers and was studying animal science. Nathan continued in medicine, but with a focus on veterinary medicine. Emily had taken over the financial management of the company and was studying agribusiness. Frank, at 89 years old, had found peace in seeing that his life's work would not only continue, but prosper for many generations. St. Mary's Farm had become much more than a rural property. It was a symbol that it's never too late to start over, that family can be built through love and mutual care, and that small acts of kindness can completely transform lives. Victor, the neighbor who had insisted so much on buying the property for $50,000, now watched from afar the activity of the thriving farm, knowing he had missed the opportunity of a lifetime. But for Joseph and his chosen family, each day brought new possibilities, new dreams, and the certainty that they had built something lasting and meaningful. When people asked Joseph what the secret to St. Mary's Farm's success was, he always answered the same thing. The secret wasn't the golden chickens. It was finding golden people to share my life with. And it was true, the chickens were just the means. The end had always been family, love, and the hope of a better future built with their own hands. End of story. And you, what did you think of this story of overcoming and family? Leave your comment telling us which part moved you the most and where you're watching from. Do you believe that sometimes the best opportunities come when we least expect them? We love reading your honest opinions. Don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other inspiring stories like this one.